Blues ain't just music. It's a wound that sings. The trail walks in with a smile, pours you a drink, then leaves you choking on memories and smoke. Pain don't ask permission. It just builds a fire, and some folks burn the world just to feel warm. Some nights, when the delta fog rolls in low and thick, you can still hear it. A hollow guitar chord, bending somewhere between the trees, floating just above the water, like it never quite found the right ear. The blues wasn't born in a studio. It clawed its way up from the soil, soaking through the souls of men too broke to run and too haunted to stay still. It came from cotton fields, jail cells, shotgun shacks, and the edge of the river, where your voice could vanish into the reeds and never come back the same. That's what always got me about the blues. It wasn't just music. It was memory trapped in rhythm, grief with a beat. I guess that's why Eli and I kept chasing it. We'd been best friends since 6th grade, raised just off Highway 49 where the kudzu climbs the phone poles and the ghosts don't wait for night. Eli was the kind of guy who could tell you the difference between Delta blues and hill country with his eyes closed. He had notebooks full of stories no one asked him to write, about vanished juke joints, lost tracks, singers whose names were only ever whispered in the backs of record shops. His obsession wasn't random. His grandfather had been a session player in the 1930s, traveled to Delta with Son House, maybe even played behind Robert Johnson once, but he disappeared after a gig in Indianola. No note, no body, no goodbye, just gone, like a song cut off mid-verse. That loss stuck to Eli like humidity. He always said the blues owed him an answer. And one hot sunny day, Eli decided to get his answer, or at least to try to. That's how Eli and I found ourselves starting our road trip, with a shared playlist of Delta blues and an old map dotted with forgotten juke joints and ghost towns along Highway 61, the Blues Highway, from Memphis to Vicksburg. Indianola had been a planned stop, B.B. King's hometown. The B.B. King Museum was closed when we arrived, but that wasn't what we were after. Eli had found something on an old internet forum weeks earlier, a blurry photo of a rotting shack in the woods just outside town captioned, "Near Club Ebony, where the Forgotten Ones played." Most wouldn't recognize Club Ebony, but blues fans knew. Club Ebony, one of the South's most important African-American nightclubs, was built just after the end of World War II by Johnny Jones. The club hosted Ray Charles, Count Basie, B.B. King, Ike Turner, and Bobby Blue Bland, Little Milton, Albert King, Willie Clayton, and many other legendary acts. The name Ebony was already a fashionable one for African-American nightclubs. In a 1967 interview, King recalled that Johnny Jones was a very nice guy, and he knew the guys on the plantations didn't have any money during the week. But he would often let us in, and we would pay him off when we came in Saturday. Club Ebony is one of the few still active venues from the glory days of the Chitlin Circuit, a nickname for the network of African-American venues across the country during the segregation era. The shack behind it? That wasn't on any tour. Locals called it Pickett's Place, and most pretended it never existed. Our curiosity had only grown when an elderly archivist in Clarksdale reluctantly muttered something after we'd asked about obscure Delta venues. "You want haunted blues?" he'd said. "Try the woods behind Club Ebony. Ain't a club, it's a trap." He hadn't explained further, just shuffled away, muttering about the 1927 flood, about contracts thicker than water. So when we finally found the shack, swallowed by kudzu and cypress moss and leaning like it was bowing to something deeper in the swamp, we should have walked away. But we didn't. 'Cause some stories pull you in. Some chords strike deep. And some debts, they don't forget your name. Little did we know that we had unknowingly stepped into a graveyard of forgotten music and unfinished debts. The door of the shack creaked open too easily. Inside, it was as though time had refused to move forward. Dust clung to broken bottles. Faded flyers curled on the walls like peeling skin, some dated as early as 1925. A poster still barely legible bore the name Sonny Tate and the Mud River Stompers. Another, half-ripped, read Friday Night Soul Duel, June 1934. A collapsed upright piano lay in the corner. Its ivory keys were yellowed and chipped, some missing entirely. Strings, rusted and slack, peeked out of its cracked belly. A warped wooden table drew my eye. Something was nailed into it, a leather strap holding down a yellowed sheet of paper. Eli, just behind me, whispered, "Dude, look at this." It was a ledger. Paper was brittle, lined with hand-scrawled names. Some were violently scratched out. Others had strange symbols beside them. Clef, knife, three-pronged pitchfork. Next to each was a date. Some went back to 1919. One of them read, August 1937, Robert Johnson. Johnson, like the blues guy? I wondered. Eli nodded slowly. Robert Johnson died young. They said he sold his soul at the crossroads for talent. You remember that? Yeah. Clarksdale. That's what, like 50 miles from here? Johnson's legend haunted the Delta like morning fog. The tale went that he met the devil at the intersection of Highways 49 and 61, right near Clarksdale, and exchanged his soul for being the greatest bluesman. And after that, he was a guitar genius, songwriter savant, and then he died at 27, poisoned by a jealous husband. Only 3 photos of him survived, and fewer than 30 recordings. And yet, there was his name, in this shack. I flipped further through the ledger. Names we didn't recognize were scrawled in blood-brown ink. Caleb Steelfret Barnes, drowned, 1929. Hattie Mae Carter, banished, 1933. Duke Red, throat slashed, 1936. Some names had no ending, just blank space. We stood in stunned silence. The list included names and dates. Dates, all matching mysterious deaths or disappearances from the Delta region. I flipped to the back of the book. One final phrase had been scrawled in heavy dark ink. The music must be paid for. Back in April 1927, the Great Mississippi Flood devastated the Delta. That river had broken every levee from Cairo to New Orleans. The Great Mississippi Flood swallowed 27,000 square miles of land, drowned whole towns, and displaced hundreds of thousands, especially black sharecroppers and families who'd made the Delta their home. Dozens of juke joints were lost to the waters, but stories lived on, of bluesmen playing through waist-deep water, of deals made in panic. Juke joints that had been half-submerged for weeks were said to echo with music no one had played. Old men claimed to hear guitar chords when no guitar was present. The shack we stood in now had once been a side stage for Club Ebony in Indianola. Not the main club, but a place where men who weren't quite ready for the big room or didn't have the blood yet came to test their soul. And it was said that one of those men in the 1930s was cursed after refusing to give up a song that had come from the river. The place had no official name, just Pickett's Shack. I still looked at the words written on the final page of the ledger. The music must be paid for. A sudden wind swept through the shack, but the door didn't move. Behind us, the majestic Mississippi loomed. The river was just a mile east, its slow crawl carrying stories and silt alike. That night, Eli and I stayed in the shack. We set up camp just before dusk. Shadows stretched long through the broken window panes. And by the time the moon had risen, we heard it. It began with a low hum, a vibration like the resonance of a deep cello string. The boards on the floor shivered. Then came the knocks. 3. Then silence. Eli whispered, "Mason, the ledger, look at the last name again." I turned on my flashlight. I hadn't noticed before. Below Robert Johnson, scrawled in hurried recent ink, was written, Elijah Moore, May 2025. My hand went cold. I looked up. Eli's eyes were wide. I didn't write that. From the open door in the distance, faintly, across the river fog, a guitar strummed, and a voice began to sing,
"Ain't no rest for the borrowed soul."
I froze. Eli ran outside. I yelled for him. After a few minutes, he came back running, Trembling, with his eyes so wide open, he said, "We must ran." We ran. We were mud-soaked and shaking when we stumbled into that roadside motel on the edge of Greenwood, where Highway 82 slices through the flatlands. Greenwood, famous for its blues trail marker, the town had hosted icons: B.B. King, Son House, Skip James. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like angry bees, and the air smelled like mildew and forgotten cigarettes. I could barely speak. Eli looked even worse, pale, silent, his eyes locked on something I couldn't see. The old man behind the front desk didn't blink when we came in. He just tilted his head under a faded Mississippi Braves cap and said, "You boys been near Pickett's shack?" We hadn't told him where we'd come from. I nodded. He grunted. "Should have known. You're not the first. That place draws musicians like blood draws flies." He didn't ask for ID, just handed us a key and said, "Room 5's got thick walls. Not that it'll help." He told us the story of Jeremiah Pickett. According to legend, had been part bootlegger, part preacher, and part talent scout. He believed he could trap talent and souls. He believed sound had a soul. He said if you caught the right note, you could trap a man's spirit in a groove forever. He believed certain notes, certain songs, could open doors to the other side. He made his musicians sign contracts in their own blood, binding them to him and to songs he claimed came from the river. The force which he claimed gave them their gift. But when they tried to leave or didn't finish a song, they died or disappeared. Musicians played their hearts out, then died sudden, brutal deaths. And the shack, it was said, remembered every note. We didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and scrolled through my phone with trembling hands. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Some kind of answer. That song, the one we heard across the fog, it was still in my head, like a splinter under the skin. Eli sat by the window, guitar across his knees, just plucking strings softly, like he didn't even know he was doing it. Then he spoke, voice dry and distant. He said I could stay, but I had to play. Just one song. I froze. What? Eli looked at me. But it wasn't him. It was his eyes. They were darker, sadder, older. And then just like that, he was back, blinking like he'd come out of a trance. I don't know what I just said. I didn't sleep. I stayed up watching him, afraid that if I closed my eyes, he'd be gone. At sunrise, I drove to the Greenwood Blues Heritage Museum, hoping for anything that could ground me in something real. I told them I was researching family history, which wasn't entirely a lie. The curator, a wiry man named Lonnie Withers, helped me dig through an archive of old performance photos and local flyers. And then I found it. A photo in the Blues Trail archives of Club Ebony performers from 1932. My blood froze. One of the guitarists, a young man second from the left, dark eyes, wide grin, scar on his chin. Looks exactly like Eli. But the caption says, Elijah Moore, the boy from nowhere, vanished 1932. My thoughts went wild. A soul reborn, a song that refuses to die, and a ledger that's still collecting. When I got back to the motel, Eli was gone. I panicked, tore through the parking lot, checked the diner across the street, even the gas station. Nothing. But when I returned, the motel room door was wide open. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand. It was playing a recording, live audio. Static. Wind. Then a guitar tuning. And Eli's voice saying, "This is for the river, for the ones that stayed too long. I got the chords now. I got the blood. Just gotta finish the song." Then the sound of strings being tuned to open D minor, the crossroads tuning, as old Delta players used to call it. I had no choice. I drove back through the Delta's flat, endless roads, past catfish ponds and cotton fields and abandoned gas stations. Every mile closer to Indianola, The fog got thicker. The river swelled its banks, lapping close to the road like it was watching. Pickett's shack wasn't on any map, but I remembered the turnoff, a dirt road near an old marker for Charlie Patton, just west of Ruleville. The air turned syrupy again. Bugs stopped chirping. The shack looked older now, less real, like it had peeled halfway out of time. Inside, the piano was still collapsed in the corner. Now there were candles burning, fresh wax dripping, and Eli was there, sitting on the edge of that warped wooden table, playing the song. His fingers moved like they weren't his own. Blood seeped from under his nails where the strings had cut too deep. Behind him, a shadow moved. Jeremiah Pickett, or what was left of him. A face with no eyes. A grin with too many teeth. His suit was soaked with old blood and river silt. He looked at Eli.
"Your blood is old,"
he said.
"Been waiting a long time for your kin to come finish the song."
I grabbed Eli by the shoulder. He flinched, then blinked. "Get up," I whispered. "Don't play another note." But Pickett only laughed.
"Too late. He's finishing the song his granddaddy left unfinished. The one the river gave."
I turned to Eli. "This isn't yours, man. This song, it's not from you. It's from them. Gotta let it go." He trembled. The guitar trembled. Then he said, "I can't. If I stop now, it'll take me." That's when I made the only choice I could. I stepped toward the ledger, toward Pickett. "You want a soul?" I said. "Take mine. Let him go." Pickett's face barely moved, but the air changed, thickened.
"You think this is about trade? This ain't no bargain, boy. This is debt collection."
Eli looked up, eyes glassy, blood still dripping from his fingers. "Mason, I can't stop. It won't let me." "You have to fight it," he said. He blinked hard, just once, and in that moment I thought I saw him again, my friend, the real Eli. The strings in his guitar tightened like barbed wire. His back arched. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Just the low hum of that impossible, endless note we'd heard the night before. Pickett stepped forward, almost gentle. He pressed one long finger to Eli's forehead.
"He played the river's song. It owns him now."
I lunged. The floor between us split wide open, like a fault line cracking through history. Water poured upward, not down. Black delta water, full of mud, bone, and sound. I screamed his name, but Eli was already sinking. Still strumming, still playing. And when the floodwater closed over his head, the song didn't stop. They never found his body. I told the police he wandered off, that he'd been sleepwalking or confused. The detective nodded, said they see it sometimes. People vanish near the river. Happens more than you'd think. But I know what really happened. I tried to forget. I moved away. But sometimes, when the air gets heavy and the river runs high, I hear the notes again. Faint, but there, drifting from beneath the soil. Eli's song. The delta remembers. It always remembers. Sometimes I dream of a ledger, still open, still waiting, still calling. And if you listen closely, near Indianola, late at night, when the water rises and the fog rolls in, you might hear a song with no ending, and a voice whisper, "The music must be paid for."